Yo, I'll tell you right now, I'm a little bitter. I kind of don't want to do videos from these motherfuckers. Because last time they hit me with a fat, I mean, fat fucking, what do you call it? They hit me with a fat copyright claim. I mean, Jesus. They hit me with a fat copyright claim. It's crazy, man. The importance of an unhappy adolescence? Ah. These guys have videos on everything. Fuck's sakes. And a lot of times they'll not be nice about it. Like motherfuckers here, they just say some fucked up shit. Like when it comes to love, food, they're like they're absolutely merciless on love, bro. These motherfuckers do not love for shit. It's like these motherfuckers. I feel like these motherfuckers are just like. Sometimes I feel like if you know too much, is it even worth it? Like, should you even do that at that point? I feel like sometimes when you know how love works, you're just like, I feel like you're gonna be kind of cold. Like, are you really gonna be as passionate and like loving to your partner if you understand that you probably shouldn't get too attached? You probably shouldn't do this. Like, you should see this as this because then if they die or they leave you, you're not gonna be as hurt. So in order to protect yourself, like, don't you kind of have to just like not like the person as much? Like that's like I don't know. Is that really the way to go? I mean, it's a way. I mean, it's if you're really just kind of concerned about yourself, but I mean, it's all an act of faith. All you're doing is just an act of everything in life is an act of faith, man. I mean, like, is it even really like warranted or worth it to like even do that for yourself? Like, you should be. I don't know. I don't know, man. Let me just get straight into it, man. Daddy issues, school of life. Let's go.
To say that someone has daddy issues is a somewhat rude and humiliating way of alluding to a very understandable longing for a father who is strong and wise, who is judicious, kind, perhaps at points tough, but always fair, and ultimately always on our side. It would be so understandable if we were to feel we wanted someone like this in our lives, especially at moments of confusion and chaos. The longing
I
for
feel
a
like I'd be a
strong
good
father
dad.
has been a recurring theme throughout
Absolutely.
history.
I'd hope
Most
so.
religions have conceived of their central divinities as male parents. In ancient Greece, Zeus was described as the father of men and gods. In Christianity, God was the heavenly father. In Germanic mythology, Odin was the All-Father, the father of all other gods. The longing has been no less present in secular culture. In the US, the individuals who led the War of Independence and drew up the Constitution came to be known as the Founding Fathers. Garibaldi, the dignified and authoritative man who fought for the unification of Italy in the 19th century, earned himself the title of the Father of the Fatherland. In early childhood, we are all immensely weak and in need of protection. We can't
Yes, this is
understand the
true.
world. We're so fragile, we could be killed by a moderately sized dog. So much feels mysterious and outside of our control. A hunger for a daddy is, in the circumstances, wholly natural. A grown man inevitably and rightly seems immensely impressive to a small child. They appear to know everything: the capital of New Zealand, how to drive a car, how to say a few words in a foreign language, how to peel an avocado. They go to bed mysteriously late. They're up before you. In the swimming pool, you can put your arms around their neck and rest on their back. They once kicked a football so high you nearly couldn't see it. It's beyond astonishing when one is 4. The paradox of daddy issues is that those who have them are, almost always, people who didn't have very good fathers when they were small.
Of course, that's the whole point of a daddy issue. Like, what else would it be? Like daddy issues. Think about it. Like it's in the phrase. I don't know if it's a phrase, but like it's in a thing. You know, it's like daddy issues. It's like okay, like you have issues with your daddy. Like it's not that you have like that's like the very direct like from that. That's how I would interpret that, right? Like without any prior knowledge, instantly I'd be like, does it mean I'm guessing it's alluding to issues with daddy, maybe not a good relationship, maybe. And I always knew that it also included like maybe the dad's not there, maybe the dad's a shitty dad, you know. It never is really about the person themselves, and I always knew that. I always knew that it was never about the person themselves. Why the fuck would anybody want to blame the? It's called daddy issues. Like, how would the issue be them? Like, if they were shit, like a really shitty son, daughter, whatever. Like, if they were shitty, how would that? Why would that be called daddy issues? It would just mean that you're just like, you're kind of just a bitch. That wouldn't be called daddy issues because your daddy wouldn't. Your daddy wouldn't be the issue. If you were the issue, you'd be the issue. So then your daddy would have to be the issue. And that's why it's called daddy issues. That's a whole lot of issues. Okay, let's go.
Perhaps one's father was strong, but ultimately cruel, bullying, or disinterested. Perhaps he was more concerned with another sibling or with his work. Perhaps he wasn't around much, left the house after a divorce, or died young. The adult longing for a father is not the result of having had a good father in childhood. It's a consequence of abandonment. The longing can incline us to some tricky patterns of behavior, however mature and skeptical we may be in most areas.
But like, why does that cause them to? It causes such a sad effect, man. Because like they go and they do things that are natural. Like, think of a girl that has daddy issues. A lot of times they're gonna do shit. Like where does that usually get brought up, right? Like you're talking about a girl, all of a sudden daddy issues get mentioned. Why do you think that's happened? Why do you think that would be mentioned, huh? Because of the behavior that person is then gonna showcase because of that abandonment issue, because of that fact that that something so important and so fundamental and crucial to their development was kind of missing. So now like they're kind of like still kind of like gonna look for, like obviously as naturally they're kind of still gonna look for that. Like you can't just necessarily always control your yearnings for things. Like obviously like it's super important to have that. So it's just like, okay, well they didn't really have that, and like is it necessarily just gonna go away? No, it's kind of like emotions. It may you could try to ignore it, but isn't it kind of just gonna build up in here? You know, it's kind of just gonna be it's probably one of those things that just kind of builds up. It doesn't really go away because it's so fundamental. It's so important. And then they start doing things that they're just gonna get ridiculed about. That's how I think of it, right? Like if we're talking about a girl, right? All of a sudden, daddy issues get mentioned. I already know that that person is doing something to warrant somebody to bring up daddy issues. I already know. They're probably doing. And usually it's with girls. Usually, I've never really even really heard it with a guy. I don't really see this amongst guys. At least like problematic behavior that is very like everybody notices it's daddy issues. I don't really notice it with guys. I usually notice it with girls where like they're obviously gonna do shit. They're gonna, I don't know, what's typical behavior? Maybe he might talk about it, but like like this could lead to a girl maybe liking older guys. That's something I could think of right away. And I know a lot of girls like that. And that's understandable. I mean, but you also have like fuck. You have like I kind of want to say hoe shit, but like kind of like maybe they might not have the best relationship with their partners. Maybe they like are so dependent on their boyfriend who happens to be much older than them. They're like obsessed with, no, not obsessed. What's the behaviors? I feel like I completely lost it. I used to think that I had a very good sense of what a girl with like daddy issues would like act like, but it's also like they might hoe around, they might try to, but that would kind of incorporate, like hoeing around might incorporate something different because it just means that you're missing a whole lot of validation. I don't know if that might be kind of implied by not having a dad there, but like I don't think that would be that. Like obviously you fuck around a lot. That's because you like the validation that comes from being loved. Maybe you weren't loved as much as a child. I guess there could be a direct link there. If you don't have a dad, you could only really be loved half as much as you possibly could. If your dad's just shitty and not there and not loving you, you're only getting like 50% of what you could. If he was there, he was loving you, you get 100. So maybe if you're at 50, so daddy issues could be directly linked to that, right? And they might go and they hoe around and they fuck around. They fuck the whole football team and they end up, and then they like that shit, you know. Even like any sort of attention that they get is like good, you know, like any good attention that they get, they sort of associate that with being wanted, you know. They want to feel wanted because maybe they didn't as a child. But I feel like it gets complicated because there's definitely a lot more at play there than just daddy issues. But like daddy issues could be a big factor in that, you know, where like yeah, they just kind of hoe around, and that, you know, they like the validation that comes from having all these men who really only want to use them, who really only want to fuck them and use them for their body. Like even they don't always just see it that way, or maybe they do, that they just don't care. They like what it feels like to just be fucked, I guess, because they associate that with being loved and, you know, being wanted and being sought after, desired for. You know, it's like shit like that, and it's like, damn, you realize how complex we really fucking are. And it's like the the social etiquettes and sort of like rule books and like the fucking shit that we set up for ourselves doesn't always help us out in these scenarios, because it's like obviously that person is just gonna be seen as a skank. They're gonna be seen as a thotty, a hoe, you know, a slut. We have these words for a reason. Girls that are frowned upon. Hey, this is frowned upon behavior that is frowned upon for, I don't even like, why is a hoe frowned upon? Why is that behavior that's frowned upon? Well, if you're like, if you know, obviously, I could say the first one is if you have a boyfriend, or guys can do it too. Let's say you have a partner and you're just fucking around. You're just going around fucking other people, and like you kind of entered this relationship with this person with the premise and the responsibility and the promise that you were just gonna be with this person. You were gonna dedicate your entire like romantic love and affection to this person. You're not gonna be doing anything crazy with anybody else. You're gonna just dedicate yourself to being attached to this person, right? And this person only. We're like, we have this security together. We're official. We have we like each other, and we're like down to be together, whatever, right? If you break that, you will go around harming around. That's understandable to get frowned upon, because you're that's an amoral thing to do, to just cheat on your partner, to just cheat on your boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. It's immoral. You don't want to do that, even if they don't find out. No, you don't want to just hoe around. So you kind of just it's obviously frowned upon because you're obviously like hurting the other person. Like you're breaking your promise. An amoral thing to do is to cheat on your person when you told them you weren't going to cheat on them. Let's say they haven't cheated on you because they're faithful to you and they're keeping their promise and their love for you. Like they love you and they're like, okay, I wouldn't want to do anything to jeopardize that. And you're not following up on that. You're not following up on your word, and you're jeopardizing that. And it's just like, okay, that's frowned upon, because when a person finds out, inevitably, it's gonna hurt. You're hurting this person. And so for one person to hurt another person when the other person doesn't really deserve it, incredible. What about like other than that, I don't really see why. I mean, a girl can do what she wants to do. That's really kind of the only reason I can think of right now why it might be frowned upon. Other than that, a girl can do what she wants to do, but she's gonna get flamed anyway because of the way society works and the way people are. Like she's gonna get flamed. She's gonna get uh, name called. There's gonna be a whole lot of name calling, and like she's just not gonna get along with her. Like people are gonna have this idea in the back of their minds that she's a thotty and that she's been ran through, got a train ran on her by the whole football team. She got maybe. Is it on? Okay.
were in skeptical
You can turn it on. Like, I don't care. Turn on the other microphone. I don't care. Like, just work, man. What the fuck? It said that it was working. It said I was just talking for how long for no fucking reason. There's just gonna be the video with no fucking audio, isn't there? Come on. And I don't like to redo videos or like not post them. I was saying so much, I feel like, important stuff. Like, fuck. Are you kidding me? That's so stupid. Why the fuck? What happened? Like, come on. Seriously? Like, you're joking, right? Like, come on. Let me just finish this fucking video, man. I just talk for no fucking reason.
In relation to the idea of male protection, we remain a little like areas. In relation to the idea of male protection, we remain a little like the young child we once were, and haven't been allowed to mature away from. We secretly yearn for a man to step in and fulfill an unquenched fantasy role. They'll take charge. They'll make the big decisions. They'll be tough and certain to make our problems go away. They'll make sure the money side of things is sorted. They'll get angry and aggressive with anyone who hurts us. They'll be proud of us and love us as we are. We'll be looking out for daddies in friendships, at work, and, not least, in politics. The danger is that these daddies may, in the end, hugely damage our trust, for it isn't in anyone's power to assuage the sort of longings we bring to bear on them. They may know very well what we want, and naively or cynically promise to provide it for us. But gradually, too late, we stand to realize that they had 1,000 flaws, as we all do. We may realize that they're bullying rather than noble, that our enemies haven't gone away, that they couldn't help us, that there isn't in fact enough money in the world to do what they promised, and that, in fact, they didn't really love us at all. The fantasy daddy figure of adulthood isn't, in fact, a good father, for one big reason. Truly good humans know they aren't that powerful, and are happy to admit to the fact cleanly and honestly, just as soon as we're ready to take the news, which is normally when we're around 12 years old and conscious of new powers and capacities. A good father doesn't, beyond that age, pretend to be all-powerful. They confess they can't solve all our problems and can't magically save us from a myriad of dangers, no matter how much they wish they could. The good daddy disappoints us just as soon as we're strong enough to bear reality. Out of love, they deflate the idea that there could ever be a perfect, ideal daddy. They try as best they can to help us grow up. If we encounter someone who has daddy issues, the temptation is to get frustrated, to tell them to mature, to mock them, and in particular, to poke fun at the particular
That's what I was talking
they
about,
might have identified. This isn't either a very wise or ultimately a very kind strategy. It simply tends to entrench their devotion because whenever we're attacked, we of course feel ever more intensely than ever the need for the protection of an idealized father. What we really need to help us out of our daddy issues is something more like the actions of a genuinely good father. Someone who acknowledges our suffering and our fears, who deeply wants what's best for us and isn't reluctant to say so, but who at the same time, out of love, wants to help us to come to terms with a messy and essentially disappointing world. A man who, out of love, will encourage us to be independent and specifically not to fantasize that anyone, however outwardly imposing, can ever do the impossible. Good daddies allow us to bear the truth that there are, in the end, no daddies.
The way
We
you
love
said that.
bringing you these films. If you want to
Oh
help us to keep
shit. Look, fool. Just out of saying sorry for the fact that I talked for 8 minutes for no fucking reason, since apparently you guys couldn't hear me, because I looked over at the mic shit and it just wasn't activated, and my microphone is on. It says everything's working. It says everything is working as it's supposed to, but it just wasn't working. I guess I'm gonna have to restart my program or something. But I'm actually gonna watch this video really quick, no pausing, just because I feel like I owe you guys some extra content, because that was, oh my god, like, oh my god. And I'm not gonna use Wondershare Femora. I noticed that the gratitude video that I made, it wasn't on the editor, right? It's not on the editor. I didn't bother to check the final product. I didn't think that it was gonna be like. It didn't tell me it was gonna have a fucking, what do you call it? A watermark. And that's, my god, what a fucking watermark that is. Jesus Christ, you're fucking cancer. Actually, fucking, like, actually just like, you're disgusting. You fucking pussy ass bitches, bro. On God, like, I hate Wondershare Femora just cause of that. I literally am like in the editor and I'm like, dude, this shit's sick. This is so cool. I like see the video on my YouTube and let's just play this.
There's a view around that the most romantic thing you can tell someone else is, I don't want to change a thing about you. I love you exactly as you are. According to a prevalent romantic philosophy, love is definitely not meant to be about trying to alter another person. But a blanket refusal to listen to any idea of change at our lover's hands would only make sense if we were, in fact, already morally perfect. And yet, the more time two people spend around each other, the more they're naturally going to spot things that are a little less than ideal. It might be something quite small, their way of chewing perhaps, or something larger, their attitude to their career or family. Many other people might have spotted these problems before. If they never said anything, it's not because they're nicer, just far less concerned. But our lovers can and have to be bothered. It's the mixed privilege of the job. However, because the concept of education in love has such low status, things tend to go terribly wrong when there's a lesson to impart. From a lack of confidence in the legitimacy of their task, the lover with something to teach may be neither calm nor prepared. Furthermore, because so much is at stake, a fear of not being listened to over something vital can quickly explode into rage or sarcasm.
Yes.
As for the one who has something to
I know
learn,
that.
our culture immediately makes them feel that feedback is by nature unromantic and illegitimate. They can feel got at, picked on, and humiliated, and so may fall back on that comforting yet nonsensical line, "You wouldn't criticize me if you loved me." In love, we're too often terrible educators and students. Yet in truth, we're all so imperfect, we've got to teach and learn. Good criticism is the salvation, not the end of love. A lot about love is about tolerating and accepting frailties, but some of it is also about offering the sort of feedback that no one else gives a damn enough to give us. Love should be not about cherishing everything, but about seeing the full potential in one another, and therefore about trusting in one another enough to listen to challenging information. Good love means two people, on a rotating basis, knowing how to take on the roles both of really kind teacher and deeply open-minded, undefensive student. Did you know that the School of Life is...
What was that animation?
10 places, in fact.
What is that animation? What the fuck? Oh, that is true though. A lot of people do not want to fucking, what do you call it? A lot of people do not want to get told what to do, but it's like, I mean, I don't want to quote Chris Rock on what he said, but it is kind of an act of service, though. Like sometimes you're gonna have to 80-20. Sometimes you're gonna have to be, you might have to be on bass. Sometimes you might have to be on tambourine. Like you gotta be adaptable to the shit. Obviously you gotta accept the person for who they are, but like also, I think you should be willing to make like these slight change. Like nobody's gonna ask. Nobody who truly loves somebody is gonna ask for a complete overhaul ever. But like maybe a slight change, maybe like, like I think, like, wouldn't it be the best thing? Like you really care about this person, so wouldn't it be the right thing to do to tell them? Right, like what he said. Like some people just don't give enough of a fuck to tell you, but like a lot of people do have problematic behavior, and that is something that like somebody who loves you is gonna have to be the man, like not the man, like they're gonna have to be the person that is entitled, like that's like entrusted and sort of like given the task of doing so, of telling you like, hey, do something, like I don't like that you do this. You need to cool it. Like you need to start doing this for this reason and this and that reason. It's like you need to like quit doing this. Like it's not working out. Like and it's like they shouldn't tell you to to change something super fundamental about you. They shouldn't tell you to change anything big, anything that you actually really like to do. You should. It should. I feel like in my head, I imagine it's usually just like sort of unconscious behavior. Maybe you don't really notice it. You don't think it's that big of a deal. Other person might think it's a bigger deal. And honestly, you just have to be respectful of what the other person thinks. It's an act of faith, and you should also know that. You should also know, like, don't. You should also be aware and acknowledge that, this person should not be trying to change everything about me. But sure, I did like. There is sort of an act of service here in this relationship, so. If this person really does not like me doing this, as long as it's not too fundamental to who I am, I should be willing to, maybe make these slight adjustments, and that way we can make this work because I like this person. I love this person, and I want this to work. And with that being said, hopefully the video doesn't come out shitty. I'm going to have to work out this mic situation because it was not working, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace out, guys.